First, thank you all for coming. It's wonderful to see you and share this new work with you. Thank you to my contributors, David Romvet, Malachi Black, our own Chris Hemmensley and Michael Brissenden. Thank you to the wonderful American artist Megan Aline, who kindly consented to the use of her image Inward for the front cover. Thank you to my publisher Withenstock, to Matthew Weimer and the team that brought the project to fruition, that tactfully avoided my own front cover suggestions for the marvellous look they finally achieved. Hands dance. I wrote this in the last 6 months of my PhD on the epic trilogy Seculum by Peter Dale Scott. It was a volume which emerged as a way of preparing myself for the exit from the 5-year program. I think subconsciously I was worried all I knew about poetry was Peter Dale Scott, full stop. But also it was spiritually essential to engage with my own world and my own Catholic faith. To explain, and this was on a daily basis, I was reading about bullet holes in cars, mass murders, political assassinations, tapped phones and censor publications, student experiments in effects of sensory deprivation, non-violent protests, Tibetan prayer flags hung in trees, rendered noisy by the wind, kayak expeditions experienced the wrong way up. I was reading about loss, about Peter Dale Scott losing his first wife, Maylie, to a Buddhist monastery when she decided to become a priest, who also lost his home in the Californian wildfires that destroyed vast hectares of property. I was reading about a world where there is champagne on air flights, parties in mansions, intimate dinners with loved ones, spiritual retreats, naked romps in swimming holes. And I was also reading about the wisdom of owls, the presence of ghosts, mindfulness and meditation, the pursuit of enlightenment, acceptance, redemption, endurance, love. I was reading about Buddhism and Sufism, Taoism, Hinduism, Christianity, Catholicism, modern poets, romantic poets, contemporary poets, and eco-poetics, a poetics that treads lightly and contemplates ideas of home and harmony. During these last days of the thesis, I read poetry in the evenings a little before dinner. Here I felt alone, at home, content, and interested. Handstands became a way of celebrating the spiritual and natural world that all gods could appreciate, not just my own. The god Pan, god of nature, and a little bit mischievous, I think, is dancing because he is executing the marriage of differences, performing mystically a type of wizardry. A few of the poems are selected from previous publications. The main are new, and several were added in postscript to my thesis submission. A 100-page volume, it is my thickest production, as well it ought to be. Here are some of the poems from the collection. This poem was published in The Australian on the very same day I was driving to Sydney to live and study my PhD. It recalls a very profound memory of my childhood when I was aged about 4 or 5, and a sparrow hit the window and died of a broken neck. My father gave me a nappy, and a fresh nappy, and a piece of charcoal, and recommended I write a prayer and bury it in the garden, and the rest followed. I find that this moment is probably the making of my faith. To a sparrow. But there's a line of thought starting with a charcoal prayer, a morning sun abiding, the short and long of twigs, Microia exhalata, a presence of heart. That shadow-like follows in small bird feet, even dressed in finery, doggedly pulling at my skirts, the rubbed tear ducts to shade. We're almost stopped. You are listening to small songs your whole life. A line of thought you could question as to the necessity of rain breaks overhead in a hot month. This next poem commences some of the new poems. During my PhD, I also had a few random dates with men, and none of them worked out, and I'm actually enjoying my own company for good at the moment. And so this poem is called Data. We share our tea on a summer afternoon in a stranger's courtyard. I scoop one soundlessly from my porcelain cup with a silver teaspoon while you speak, resting it on a saucer saturated, and see the paradox. Though not seemingly a star, I am no longer sure it may not be. In our conversation, there is a flame which burns with a sharp red colour, sparkling at times into atmosphere. And though it burns, it is too ancient to be hot. What we shared was immediacy, saw the flowers which resemble stars, and behind the brightness, the forms which are shining. This next poem was inspired by a child in the car beside me at the traffic lights. It's called The Watch. A small child, he rests his elbow on the window ledge and holds his head in the palm of his hand. Seated at the front of the car, a passenger or sidekick, he gazes at the world outside the frame of a window. Just gentle skies and a mild sun, but the worry of something much weightier in the fair-haired boy's splayed hand. Day almost whispering, stay. Don't go anywhere beyond there, and return to think of fields and running until your palms rise. This poem is part of a 6-part series that reads a little bit like meditations. 4, Candle. For my friend whose facial tumour won't diminish with haste, only a shadow of his love. For my 2 friends that I see and cry with joy, only a shadow of his love. For my friend whose greeting instructs goodness, only a shadow of his love. For my friend in whom loss lessens with gain, only a shadow of his love. For my friend in which day is a journey toward gold, only a shadow of his love. For my friend who is always first, my mother, a birthday candle, only a shadow of his love. My father passed away many, many years ago, maybe 5 or 6 now. And I still have some strange dreams now and then. This dream came after I'd witnessed a pigeon earlier that day. On the impeccably dressed, a white pigeon speckled with ink-black spots walks back and forth of a concrete driveway. Large and adult, the movement is hardly easy as the pavement is sloped. And although his weight is not remarkable, the walking is slow, seemingly studied. He has a beautiful face. It is very small, white and round, except pointed in expression, due to a short black beak. Atop a slender neck, it is a serious, quiet face, with black eyes that stare out oblivious to my presence. It is a warm afternoon, but the wind is gusty and occasionally lifts the short feathers of his body as though to tease him out of his reverie. It does not succeed. The bird, above his chosen modernized surface of earth, is at peace. I walk on before he takes flight, leaves for another patch of land, where he once more might catch his breath, enjoy the sun upon his beautiful face. Therefore, it makes sense to me that later, in the middle of a dark autumn night, when the wind is still robust, undecided in the direction of its currents, and my curtains conceal windows that now feel cold and moist with atmosphere, that a person appears to me in a dream. And that person is a man wearing a white jumper speckled with ink black spots, some grey shade of trousers, and shoes shiny black with fresh rain. It makes sense to me in this night of high winds and dim misted windows that this man appears in my dream, because this man is not a stranger, but my father. Oh God, to wake to such knowledge. And that's all. I hope you enjoy the collection. You'll find it available on Amazon from the Stockers We Can Stock, and at Dymocks as well. And I believe it's Kindle. There's a Kindle version as well. Thank you. Goodbye.